Imagine if there were a simple, proven blueprint for transforming your life, one that could help you achieve your goals, strengthen your relationships, and find deeper meaning in everything you do. What if success wasn't just about working harder, but about working smarter, guided by timeless principles that never expire? That's exactly what the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People offers. Stephen R. Covey, a world-renowned leadership expert, spent decades studying the lives of highly effective leaders, innovators, and everyday achievers. His findings are not based on fleeting trends or quick fixes, but on universal truths that have shaped human success for generations. Covey's insights have influenced presidents, CEOs, educators, and millions of readers across the globe, making this one of the most respected self-development books of all time. In this audiobook summary, you will uncover the 7 powerful habits that can reshape your mindset, transform your productivity, and elevate the quality of your personal and professional life. By listening, you will learn not only what these habits are, but also how to apply them in practical, real-world situations. If you're ready to take control of your life and unlock your full potential, this journey begins now. Introduction. Paradigms and Principles. Stephen R. Covey begins by challenging how we often approach personal and professional success. Many people, he explains, focus on quick fixes, techniques, personality tricks, or surface-level skills, hoping these will solve deeper problems. But these are like applying a coat of paint to a crumbling wall. They may look good briefly, but the underlying structure is still weak. True effectiveness, Covey argues, is not about image or tactics. It is about aligning our lives with timeless, universal principles. At the heart of his philosophy is the concept of paradigms, the mental maps through which we see and interpret the world. Just as a physical map determines how we navigate a city, our mental paradigms shape how we navigate life. 2 people can look at the same situation and interpret it completely differently, depending on their paradigm. If our paradigm is flawed, our actions and decisions will be misaligned, no matter how hard we try. Covey uses the analogy of the P/PC balance, the relationship between production, P, and production capability, PC. Imagine you own a goose that lays golden eggs. If you focus only on the eggs, production, without caring for the goose, production capability, the source of your success will eventually break down. In life, focusing only on short-term results without maintaining the capacity to produce, our health, relationships, knowledge, and integrity, leads to burnout and failure. He also distinguishes between personality ethic and character ethic. The personality ethic emphasizes image, public relations, and techniques to influence others, skills that can be useful but are often manipulative when not rooted in deeper values. The character ethic, on the contrary, focuses on foundational principles like integrity, humility, honesty, patience, and courage. These are not quick to acquire. They require consistent effort and personal growth. Covey's central message is that lasting success grows from character, not from cosmetic adjustments. Principles, he says, are natural laws, unchanging truths like gravity. You cannot break them, you can only align with them or suffer the consequences of ignoring them. Just as a farmer must plant in the right season and nurture crops before harvest, human effectiveness follows a natural process. Trying to bypass these principles is like planting seeds one day and expecting fruit the next. Covey illustrates how paradigms can shift dramatically. He recounts a moment on a subway when a father's children were misbehaving loudly, disturbing other passengers. Covey, irritated, finally confronted the man, only to learn that the children's mother had just died that morning. In an instant, Covey's paradigm shifted from judgment to compassion. The lesson is clear. When we change the way we see the world, our feelings and behaviors naturally change too. The introduction also highlights that most people try to change from the outside in. They focus on altering circumstances or other people. But the real, lasting change comes from the inside out, starting with our own character, paradigms, and principles. If we want better relationships, more trust, or higher performance, we must first improve ourselves. Covey emphasizes that the 7 habits he presents are built on this foundation. They are not isolated techniques. They are interdependent steps toward personal and interpersonal mastery. The habits move from dependence, relying on others, to independence, self-reliance, and finally to interdependence, collaborating effectively with others. Interdependence, he argues, is the highest form of human effectiveness because most significant achievements require cooperation. This journey, however, demands patience and self-discipline. It requires humility to recognize our flawed paradigms and the courage to replace them with more accurate ones. Covey assures the reader that the investment will yield extraordinary returns, deeper trust in relationships, stronger personal credibility, and sustained results in work and life. The introduction sets the tone for the rest of the book. We are invited not just to learn about the 7 habits, but to adopt a new way of seeing and living, one grounded in principles that stand the test of time. Covey's promise is that by aligning our paradigms with these universal truths, we can not only achieve more, but become the kind of person who naturally creates lasting success and positive influence.
Habit number 1. Be proactive. At the foundation of personal effectiveness is the ability to take responsibility for one's own life. Being proactive means recognizing that you are the architect of your actions, emotions, and ultimately your destiny. While circumstances, conditions, and environment can influence behavior, they do not determine it. Between what happens to you and how you respond lies the power to choose. Human beings are unique in that they possess self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will. Self-awareness allows you to step back and examine your own thinking and behavior. Imagination gives you the capacity to envision possibilities beyond your current reality. Conscience guides you toward principles that align with universal truths. Independence will empower you to act on those principles, even in the face of difficulty. Being proactive is different from simply taking initiative. It is a mindset that accepts full ownership of one's choices and outcomes. Reactive people often allow their behavior to be driven by external forces, other people's moods, the weather, or unexpected events. Their language reflects a lack of control. "There's nothing I can do," or "that's just the way I am." In contrast, proactive individuals focus on what they can control, using language like "I choose to" or "let's find a solution." A practical way to live proactively is to understand the circle of concern and the circle of influence. The circle of concern includes everything you care about: global events, the economy, other people's decisions, but cannot directly control. The circle of influence contains matters you can actually affect, such as your own habits, attitudes, and skills. Proactive people focus their energy on their circle of influence, gradually expanding it. Reactive people waste time and energy on their circle of concern, which often leads to frustration and a sense of helplessness. Taking responsibility also means accepting that your behavior is a product of your conscious decisions, not your conditions. This perspective shifts the focus from blaming external factors to seeking solutions and making deliberate choices. For instance, instead of reacting with anger to an insult, a proactive person pauses, considers their values, and chooses a response that aligns with them. This deliberate control over reaction is a sign of personal maturity. Another aspect of proactivity is recognizing the power of commitments and keeping promises. When you make and keep commitments, whether to yourself or to others, you build personal integrity and trust. Small acts, such as following through on a plan to exercise or arriving on time to a meeting, strengthen your sense of self-control and reliability. Over time, these seemingly minor actions compound into a strong personal character. Proactivity also applies to long-term goals and challenges. When faced with setbacks, proactive people do not dwell on the problem or blame circumstances. Instead, they focus on what can be done now to move forward. They maintain the perspective that they are not victims of fate, but active participants in shaping their future. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending that pain does not exist. Rather, it means responding to them in ways that align with one's values and desired outcomes. One helpful approach is to act based on principles rather than moods or external pressures. Principles, being constant, provide a stable foundation for decision-making, even when circumstances change. A proactive person might experience frustration or disappointment, but they allow their principles, not their emotions, to guide their behavior. This self-discipline often earns respect from others and builds influence over time. Proactivity also calls for taking initiative without waiting for permission or perfect conditions. Many people delay action until they feel ready or until the environment seems favorable. Proactive individuals create favorable conditions by acting within their current capabilities and resources. They understand that progress often begins with small, consistent actions rather than grand gestures. Language plays a powerful role in reinforcing either a proactive or reactive mindset. Statements like, "I can't," "they won't let me," or "I have to," imply a loss of control. Reframing these statements to "I choose to," or "I prefer not to," or "I will," acknowledges personal agency. By consciously choosing proactive language, you reinforce the belief that you are in control of your life. Proactivity also extends to how one handles relationships. Instead of waiting for others to make the first move or change their behavior, proactive individuals focus on how they can contribute positively to the relationship. They listen actively, communicate respectfully, and act in ways that promote trust. Even if the other person's response is not ideal, they continue to behave in a way consistent with their own standards. In professional environments, proactivity can mean anticipating problems before they arise, seeking solutions without being asked, and taking ownership of results. It is the difference between an employee who passively follows instructions and one who actively looks for ways to improve systems and outcomes. Over time, this approach not only enhances personal effectiveness, but also builds credibility and leadership potential. Ultimately, being proactive is about recognizing that you have the power to choose your response in any situation. This principle can be life-changing when fully embraced. It shifts the focus from external conditions to internal control, from blame to responsibility, and from passivity to purposeful action. While it may not be possible to control every event, it is always possible to control your response, and in so doing, to influence the outcome. Developing proactivity is not an overnight process. It requires daily practice in self-awareness, deliberate choice, and alignment with principles. Over time, the habit becomes a natural part of how you think and act. As you strengthen this habit, you build the foundation for the other 6 habits to follow, because all meaningful change begins with taking responsibility for your own life.
Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. To live effectively, it is essential to have a clear sense of direction. Beginning with the end in mind means envisioning the destination before taking the first step. It is about identifying the ultimate goals for your life, both personally and professionally, and then making decisions that move you steadily toward them. Without this clarity, daily activities can become aimless, and urgent matters may crowd out what is truly important. A powerful way to understand this habit is to imagine your own funeral. Picture the people who would be there: family, friends, colleagues, members of your community. Think about what you would want them to say about you, the kind of person you were, the contributions you made, the values you lived by. This mental exercise reveals the legacy you wish to leave behind. By defining this vision now, you can begin shaping your life in alignment with it. At the core of this habit is the principle that all things are created twice, first in the mind and then in reality. Just as an architect draws a blueprint before construction begins, individuals must create a mental image of what they want before acting. If the mental creation is unclear or left to chance, the physical creation will reflect that lack of direction. Living with the end in mind requires identifying personal values and principles. These form the compass that guides decision-making and behavior. Values are deeply held beliefs about what is most important in life, such as honesty, kindness, family, or service. Principles, on the other hand, are universal truths that remain constant regardless of circumstances. By aligning actions with both, you ensure that your life's direction remains steady, even when faced with challenges. One of the most effective tools for practicing this habit is writing a personal mission statement. This statement serves as a constitution for your life, a written expression of who you want to be, what you want to do, and the values that will guide you. It helps you make consistent decisions and prevents you from being swayed by trends, pressures, or temporary emotions. A well-crafted mission statement is personal and meaningful. It might focus on roles you play, such as parent, friend, professional, or on qualities you wish to develop like integrity, creativity, or compassion. It should inspire you, reflect your deepest priorities, and be reviewed regularly as your understanding of your purpose evolves. Some people also create mission statements for families or organizations, fostering a shared sense of purpose and unity. Beginning with the end in mind also involves distinguishing between leadership and management. Leadership is about determining the right direction, deciding what goals to pursue and why. Management is about ensuring that those goals are achieved efficiently. Without clear leadership, management can be misguided, efficiently climbing a ladder that is leaning against the wrong wall. This habit is primarily about leadership, ensuring that your efforts are moving you toward the life you truly want to live. It also calls for mindfulness in daily living. Many people spend their time reacting to immediate demands without considering whether those activities contribute to long-term goals. Beginning with the end in mind encourages you to pause and ask, does this action align with my ultimate purpose? If the answer is no, it may be time to adjust priorities. Applying this habit means making choices that reflect a vision of your best self. For example, someone who values health will prioritize nutritious eating and exercise, even when tempted by convenience or short-term comfort. Someone who values strong relationships will invest time and attention in loved ones, even during busy periods. Each decision becomes a step toward the envisioned end. It also means being intentional in all roles of life. Each role, such as spouse, parent, leader, or friend, has its own responsibilities and opportunities for growth. Defining what success looks like in each role helps ensure that no area is neglected. This balanced approach prevents the common problem of excelling in one role while failing in another. This habit also encourages resilience in the face of obstacles. When you have a clear vision, temporary setbacks are less discouraging because you understand that they are part of the journey, not the destination. You are better able to adapt strategies while keeping your ultimate purpose in sight. Ultimately, this habit is about living with intention rather than drifting. It is about ensuring that the ladder of your life rests against the right wall before you spend years climbing it. When you know where you want to end up, you can make today's choices with confidence, knowing they lead you toward the life you truly want to live.
Habit number 3. Put first things first. Effectiveness is not just about knowing what is most important. It is about consistently acting on that knowledge. Putting first things first means organizing life around priorities and ensuring that the most valuable tasks receive the time and energy they deserve. It is the practical execution of the vision established in the previous habit. This habit addresses the gap between intention and action. Many people know what matters most to them, yet their daily schedules do not reflect these priorities. Urgent matters, emails, meetings, interruptions often crowd out important but less time-sensitive activities like long-term planning, personal development, or relationship building. Over time, this imbalance can lead to stress, missed opportunities, and a sense of drifting. A useful framework for managing priorities is the time management matrix, which divides activities into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, urgent and important, crises, pressing problems, deadlines. Quadrant 2, not urgent but important, planning, prevention, relationship building, self-care, skill development. Quadrant 3, urgent but not important, interruptions, certain calls or meetings, other people's minor demands. Quadrant 4, not urgent and not important, time-wasting activities, excessive entertainment, trivial tasks. Highly effective people focus on Quadrant 2. These activities prevent crises, build capacity, and align with long-term goals. They are often neglected because they do not demand immediate attention, yet they yield the greatest benefits when given consistent focus. Putting first things first requires saying no to activities that do not align with priorities. This can be challenging, especially when demands come from people you want to please, or when distractions are appealing. However, every yes to something unimportant is a no to something essential. Clear priorities make these decisions easier, as they provide a standard against which to evaluate new opportunities. Living this habit also involves effective self-management. This is more than time management. It is about managing your energy, attention, and commitments. It includes scheduling time for important activities before filling the calendar with less significant tasks. For example, if health is a priority, exercise should be planned into the week just as firmly as work meetings. Delegation plays an important role in putting first things first. By entrusting tasks to others along with the authority and resources to complete them, you free up time for activities that require your unique skills and focus. Effective delegation is not merely assigning work. It is creating clear expectations, providing support, and trusting the other person to deliver results. This builds mutual respect and develops the capabilities of those you work with. Another aspect of this habit is personal discipline. Even when priorities are clear, it can be tempting to choose what is easiest or most comfortable at the moment. Discipline means acting according to values rather than moods. This might mean working on a challenging project instead of browsing social media, or initiating a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it. Over time, these consistent choices create significant progress toward meaningful goals. Putting first things first also applies to relationships. Investing time in listening, supporting, and understanding others may not have immediate rewards, but it builds trust and strengthens connections that can sustain both personal and professional success. Neglecting these investments often leads to problems that require far more time and energy to repair later. This habit also requires recognizing the difference between being busy and being effective. It is possible to spend an entire day in constant motion yet achieve very little lasting value. True effectiveness comes from focusing on what truly matters, even if it means leaving some tasks undone. This often involves challenging the assumption that all urgent matters deserve immediate attention. Planning is an important tool for living this habit. Weekly planning is particularly effective, as it allows you to step back from daily pressures and ensure that your schedule reflects your highest priorities. This planning process involves identifying the key roles you play, setting goals for each role, and scheduling activities that support those goals. Daily adjustments may still be necessary, but the weekly plan provides a clear framework. In essence, putting first things first is about self-leadership in action. It ensures that the vision defined in Habit 2 is translated into concrete steps, and that those steps are given the space they need to be completed. It is a commitment to living by design rather than by default, making deliberate choices that reflect what matters most. By consistently focusing on important activities, avoiding the trap of constant urgency, and aligning actions with long-term goals, you create a life that is both productive and meaningful. This habit transforms time from something that happens to you into a resource you actively direct toward your chosen destination.
Habit number 4, think win-win. Effective relationships are built on mutual benefit. Thinking win-win is the mindset of seeking solutions that benefit all parties involved, rather than competing for advantage at someone else's expense. It is rooted in the belief that life is not a zero-sum game. There is enough success, recognition, and opportunity for everyone. This habit rejects both the win-lose mentality, where one person's gain is another's loss, and the lose-win mentality, where one person sacrifices their own needs for the sake of harmony. It also avoids lose-lose situations, where both sides end up worse off, often out of stubbornness or revenge. Instead, win-win seeks outcomes where everyone feels respected, valued, and satisfied with the result. The foundation of win-win thinking is an abundance mentality, the belief that resources and opportunities are plentiful, and that one person's success does not diminish another's. By contrast, a scarcity mentality views life as a limited pie, where more for one means less for another. The abundance mentality fosters collaboration, trust, and creative problem-solving, while the scarcity mentality breeds competition, suspicion, and withholding of information. Thinking win-win requires balancing consideration and courage. Consideration means showing empathy, listening to others, and respecting their needs. Courage means standing up for your own interests and values. Both are necessary. Too much consideration without courage leads to lose-win outcomes, while too much courage without consideration results in win-lose scenarios. A key element of this habit is focusing on relationships before negotiations. Trust is the currency of win-win solutions. When trust is present, parties are more open, creative, and willing to explore options that serve everyone. Without trust, discussions often become defensive and competitive. Building trust involves keeping commitments, being honest, and showing genuine concern for others. In practice, thinking win-win means approaching conflicts and negotiations with the question, how can we both get what we need? It may require expanding the scope of the discussion to include more possibilities rather than fighting over a fixed set of options. For example, in a business negotiation, rather than arguing over price alone, both sides might explore additional benefits, such as extended warranties, flexible payment terms, or future partnerships that create value for both.
It is important to note that win-win does not mean appeasing everyone or avoiding difficult conversations. It is not a compromise where both sides simply give up something. Instead, it seeks creative cooperation, finding solutions where neither party feels shortchanged. Achieving this often involves patience, open communication, and a willingness to think beyond immediate desires. In some situations, a win-win outcome may not be possible or appropriate. If values are fundamentally opposed, or if the other party is committed to a win-lose approach, the most constructive choice may be no deal. Choosing no deal means parting ways without resentment, rather than forcing a solution that leaves one or both sides dissatisfied. This preserves relationships and leaves open the possibility of collaboration in the future. Applying win-win thinking in daily life can transform both professional and personal interactions. In the workplace, it might mean recognizing and celebrating a colleague's success, rather than feeling threatened by it. In family life, it could involve finding activities that all members enjoy, instead of insisting on one person's preference every time. In friendships, it might mean supporting each other's goals while maintaining balance in the give and take of the relationship. Language plays a role here as well. Phrases like, "Let's work together to find a solution," or "How can we make this work for both of us?" invite cooperation. They signal that you value the other person's perspective and are committed to a fair outcome. Conversely, language that implies dominance or defeat, such as "you'll have to accept this" or "I guess I'll just give in," undermines the win-win mindset. Thinking win-win also requires an internal shift. It begins with self-respect and self-awareness, knowing what you want and why, while also genuinely valuing the needs of others. Without self-respect, people tend to slip into lose-win patterns, giving in too easily. Without respect for others, they gravitate toward win-lose behavior, focusing solely on their own advantage. Over time, consistently practicing this habit builds a reputation for fairness and collaboration. People become more willing to work with you, knowing that you'll look for solutions that honor their needs as well as your own. This, in turn, expands your influence and strengthens your network of relationships. Ultimately, thinking win-win is a choice to approach life with generosity, creativity, and mutual respect. It is a commitment to the idea that success is most satisfying when it is shared, and that the best solutions are those where everyone feels they have gained something of value. By fostering trust, practicing empathy, and seeking creative options, win-win thinking turns potential conflicts into opportunities for cooperation and growth.
Habit number 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Communication is the foundation of human relationships, yet it is often approached with the goal of being heard rather than truly listening. This habit reverses that tendency. It emphasizes understanding others deeply before presenting your own ideas, opinions, or solutions. The focus is on listening with the intent to understand, not merely to reply. Most people listen with the intent to respond. While the other person is speaking, their attention is on forming their own argument, preparing a defense, or crafting advice. This habit calls for setting aside that impulse, fully attending to what the other person is saying, and striving to see the situation from their perspective. True understanding requires empathic listening, listening not just with the ears, but with the eyes and the heart. It means sensing emotions, recognizing unspoken concerns, and understanding the context behind the words. Empathic listening differs from active listening techniques that rely on paraphrasing or repeating back what was said. It involves genuinely entering another person's frame of reference without judgment. The benefit of this approach is twofold. First, it builds trust.
When people feel heard and understood, they are more likely to open up, share important details, and engage in honest dialogue. Second, it creates a solid foundation for problem solving. By fully understanding the other person's needs and concerns, you can tailor your communication to address what truly matters to them, rather than making assumptions. One barrier to empathic listening is the habit of filtering what we hear through our own experiences. Instead of hearing the other person's reality, we interpret their words through our own lens, comparing it to our past, matching it to our assumptions, or categorizing it based on our worldview. This can lead to premature judgments and solutions that miss the mark. Another barrier is the tendency to offer unsolicited advice. While advice may be well-intentioned, it often interrupts the process of understanding. The other person may not be ready to receive guidance, or the advice may not address the underlying issue. Empathic listening involves holding back the urge to fix things immediately, allowing the other person to fully express themselves first. Practicing this habit requires patience. In conversations, it means resisting the urge to interrupt, even when you believe you know the point being made. It involves asking clarifying questions, reflecting back feelings as well as content, and confirming that your understanding matches the speaker's meaning. The goal is not to agree with everything you hear, but to comprehend it accurately. Only after understanding is achieved should you seek to be understood. This second step is about expressing your own perspective clearly and respectfully, using the same empathy you offered to the other person. Effective expression means stating your point in a way that aligns with the other person's frame of reference and addressing their concerns and priorities.
This two-step process, understand first, then be understood, creates synergy in communication. It shifts interactions from debate to dialogue, from defense to collaboration. Instead of two sides arguing for their own view, both work together to find solutions that address all needs. The habit is especially powerful in conflict resolution. When emotions run high, people often talk past each other, focusing on their own position rather than the underlying interests. By first seeking to understand, you reduce defensiveness, diffuse tension, and open the door to mutual problem-solving. This approach transforms confrontations into opportunities for stronger relationships. Applying this habit in daily life can be as simple as pausing before responding in conversations, especially in moments of disagreement. It might mean giving someone your full attention without distraction, or summarizing their point to ensure clarity before adding your own. It also involves cultivating genuine curiosity about others' experiences and viewpoints. In professional settings, leaders who practice this habit create environments where employees feel valued and engaged. In personal life, it strengthens bonds of trust and intimacy. Across contexts, it enhances understanding, reduces misunderstandings, and increases the likelihood of finding shared ground. The principle behind Habit 5 is straightforward. Influence flows from understanding. People are more receptive to your ideas when they feel you have heard theirs. By listening with empathy, you lay the groundwork for meaningful, persuasive, and collaborative communication. Ultimately, seeking first to understand, then to be understood, is not just a technique, but a mindset, one that prioritizes connection over control and dialogue over debate. It invites you to slow down, listen deeply, and speak in ways that honor the perspectives of others while still expressing your own truth. In doing so, it transforms the quality of relationships and the effectiveness of communication.
Habit number 6. Synergize. Synergy is the result of creative cooperation. the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It occurs when individuals bring their unique perspectives, talents, and experiences together to create solutions and outcomes that would not have been possible individually. This habit celebrates diversity as a source of strength and innovation. Synergy is not about blending differences into uniformity or avoiding conflict for the sake of harmony. Instead, it involves valuing differences, recognizing that they can lead to fresh insights and creative breakthroughs. When people respect and trust one another, they can explore ideas openly, challenge assumptions constructively, and combine their strengths in ways that produce exceptional results. At its core, synergy requires an openness to be influenced by others. This means entering discussions without rigidly holding to your own solution, but with the willingness to co-create something new. It involves listening actively, asking thoughtful questions, and building upon the ideas presented by others rather than competing with them. An important component of synergy is valuing diversity, not just in the obvious forms, such as culture, background, or profession, but in the way people think, solve problems, and approach challenges. Different viewpoints expand the range of options, uncover blind spots, and reveal creative possibilities that a single perspective might miss. When differences are seen as opportunities rather than obstacles, collaboration flourishes. However, synergy does not happen automatically. It depends on a foundation of trust and mutual respect, built through the consistent practice of the earlier habits. Being proactive, starting with the end in mind, putting first things first, thinking win-win, and seeking to understand before being understood. Without trust, differences often lead to defensive postures, power struggles, or compromise rather than genuine collaboration. The distinction between compromise and synergy is significant. Compromise often means each party gives up something to reach an agreement. While it may resolve a conflict, it can leave both sides partially dissatisfied. Synergy, on the other hand, seeks a solution that satisfies all interests fully, often producing a result that neither side could have envisioned alone. It is not about meeting halfway. It is about creating a new path that goes beyond either original position. In practice, synergy can be seen in effective teams that innovate through brainstorming, in partnerships that leverage complementary skills, or in communities that address challenges through collective problem-solving. For example, a project team might combine the strategic vision of one member, the technical expertise of another, and the communication skills of a third to produce a product far better than any could have achieved individually.
Synergy also plays a role in resolving conflicts. By reframing disagreements as opportunities to explore multiple viewpoints, it is possible to uncover shared values or common goals that provide a foundation for collaborative solutions. This often requires patience and the ability to tolerate ambiguity as new ideas are explored and tested. Creativity thrives in a synergistic environment. When individuals feel safe to share unconventional ideas without fear of ridicule or dismissal, innovation accelerates. This kind of environment encourages risk-taking, experimentation, and the synthesis of seemingly unrelated concepts into practical solutions. Applying synergy in daily life means seeking out the strengths in others and being willing to rely on them. It involves acknowledging your own limitations, appreciating the contributions of others, and remaining open to learning from different perspectives. It may mean involving people in decisions who think differently from you precisely because their viewpoints will challenge and improve your own. Synergy extends beyond work or problem-solving contexts. It can enrich personal relationships as well. In families, for example,
Synergy can mean combining different parenting styles in a way that supports a child's growth more effectively than either approach alone. In friendships, it can involve supporting each other's goals in ways that create shared experiences and mutual growth. Ultimately, synergy is a mindset as much as it is an outcome. It is the belief that collaboration can produce extraordinary results when people trust each other, respect differences, and work towards shared objectives. It requires humility, openness, and the courage to step away from familiar solutions in pursuit of something better. By practicing this habit, individuals and teams move from a culture of competition and compromise to one of genuine cooperation and innovation. The result is not only better solutions, but stronger relationships, increased trust, and a greater sense of shared accomplishment. Synergy demonstrates that when people work together with mutual respect and a commitment to finding the best possible outcome, the potential is limitless. It affirms that diversity, when embraced, can be a powerful driver of creativity, problem-solving, and progress.
Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. This habit focuses on self-renewal. It is the practice of regularly preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, yourself. Just as a saw becomes dull with use and requires sharpening to remain effective, individuals must periodically renew themselves to maintain peak performance in every area of life. Sharpening the saw is about balanced self-improvement across 4 dimensions: physical, mental, social and emotional, and spiritual. Neglecting any one of these can lead to burnout, imbalance, and diminished effectiveness. The physical dimension involves caring for your body through proper nutrition, regular exercise, adequate rest, and stress management. Physical health is foundational. Without it, energy, focus, and resilience decline. Maintaining strength, flexibility, and endurance allows you to approach challenges with vitality. The mental dimension is about continually expanding your mind through reading, learning, and problem-solving. Mental renewal comes from engaging with challenging ideas, developing new skills, and fostering creativity. Continuous learning keeps you adaptable in a changing world and sharpens your ability to think critically. The social and emotional dimension is nurtured through meaningful relationships built on trust, empathy, and mutual respect. Positive social connections provide support, reduce stress, and enhance overall well-being. Strengthening these relationships requires time, active listening, and acts of kindness. Emotional health also involves managing stress constructively, cultivating gratitude, and maintaining a positive outlook. The spiritual dimension involves connecting with your deeper values and purpose. It is about aligning your actions with principles that give life meaning. Spiritual renewal can come through prayer, meditation, reflection, time in nature, or service to others. This dimension grounds you, offering perspective and resilience in the face of challenges. Balanced renewal across all 4 areas prevents overemphasis on one dimension at the expense of the others. For example, focusing solely on work-related skills without maintaining health or relationships can lead to long-term dissatisfaction and reduced capacity. Likewise, focusing exclusively on physical training while neglecting mental or spiritual growth can leave a person unprepared for complex challenges. Sharpening the saw is not a one-time activity, but an ongoing process. It requires conscious investment of time and energy into activities that build capacity. This may mean scheduling regular exercise, setting aside time for reading and reflection, nurturing key relationships, or engaging in community service. These activities are not luxuries, they are essential to sustaining high performance and fulfillment over the long term. The benefits of consistent renewal extend beyond personal well-being. People who regularly sharpen the saw are better equipped to contribute meaningfully to their work, families, and communities. They approach challenges with greater creativity, patience, and resilience. They are less prone to burnout and more capable of sustaining effort toward long-term goals. This habit also reinforces the other 6 habits. For example, physical vitality supports proactivity. Mental growth strengthens problem-solving. Social and emotional renewal enhance cooperation. And spiritual grounding ensures that goals and actions remain aligned with core values. In this way, sharpening the saw is both a capstone habit and a sustaining force for all the others.
In practical terms, sharpening the saw can include small daily practices as well as larger periodic renewals. A brisk walk, a few pages of an inspiring book, a heartfelt conversation, or a moment of reflection can all serve as sharpening moments. Larger renewals might include a retreat, a skills workshop, a vacation focused on rest and reflection, or a major personal challenge that fosters growth. The key is intentionality, making conscious choices to engage in renewal rather than leaving it to chance. It means recognizing when energy is low, perspective is narrowing, or motivation is waning, and taking steps to restore balance before decline becomes difficult to reverse. Sharpening the saw also requires self-awareness. Different people renew themselves in different ways, and even for the same person, needs can change over time. Being attuned to these needs allows for a more effective and personalized renewal strategy. Ultimately, this habit is about sustainability. It acknowledges that effectiveness is not just about pushing harder, but about replenishing resources so that effort can be sustained over years and decades. It is an investment in the long-term capacity to live, work, and contribute at a high level. By regularly renewing the physical, mental, social-emotional, and spiritual dimensions, individuals not only maintain effectiveness, but often discover new levels of performance, creativity, and satisfaction. Sharpening the saw ensures that growth continues, potential expands, and life remains deeply fulfilling.
Conclusion: living a life of principle-centered effectiveness. The journey through these 7 habits has been more than a sequence of skills. It is a path to personal and interpersonal transformation. Each habit builds upon the last, moving from the mastery of self to the mastery of relationships, and finally, to the continuous renewal that sustains all growth. By choosing to be proactive, you take responsibility for your life, shaping your choices rather than being shaped by circumstances. By beginning with the end in mind, you set a clear vision for the future, one anchored in enduring principles. By putting first things first, you align your actions with your priorities, ensuring that what matters most never falls victim to the urgency of the moment. Thinking win-win allows you to see others not as competitors to be defeated, but as partners in mutual success. Seeking first to understand, then to be understood, builds trust and lays the foundation for true influence. Synergizing harnesses the power of diversity, creating results that exceed what anyone could achieve alone. And sharpening the saw ensures that you remain physically strong, mentally sharp, emotionally connected, and spiritually grounded, no matter what the challenges ahead. The true power of these habits lies not in knowing them, but in living them consistently,
intentionally, and with integrity. They are not quick fixes, but timeless principles that, when practiced daily, transform the way you lead, work, and relate to others. You now hold in your hands the tools to live with greater purpose, deeper relationships, and sustained success. The choice to apply them belongs entirely to you. You have just heard the distilled wisdom of the 7 habits of highly effective people, a framework that has transformed millions of lives around the world. But knowledge alone changes nothing. Transformation comes only when you take the first step and begin applying these habits in your own life. Do not wait for the perfect moment. There is no better time than now. Choose one habit to start with today. Practice it intentionally. Then build upon it, step by step, until each habit becomes part of who you are. Your future is shaped by the choices you make right now. Choose to be proactive. Choose to focus on what truly matters. Choose to create relationships built on trust and mutual benefit. And most of all, choose to keep growing every single day. The tools are in your hands. The principles are timeless. The potential is limitless. Start living the life you were meant to live. Begin your journey of effectiveness today. If you found value in this audiobook summary and want to continue your journey of growth and self-mastery, don't let it end here. Subscribe now to get access to more powerful book summaries, actionable insights, and life-changing principles delivered straight to you.